This is Kathy Biehl of EmpowermentUnlimited.net with Astro-Insight for the week of October 30th, 2017. More so than most years, the skies are really encouraging the vibe that goes with the two big events on the calendar this week, Halloween and Day of the Dead, and that vibe is going to continue well into the month of November. Think about how we celebrate Halloween. We surround ourselves with images of things that really should scare us. We dress up as monsters. We watch movies that at one point might have scared us, and all of them are a way of making light of and desensitizing us to things that, on a deep level, really should make us very uncomfortable. They're playing with the concept of mortality and threats to our own physical well-being. An awful lot is on the prowl currently. A lot of monsters from the deep, secrets from the past, mysteries coming out, things slipping out that people would prefer not to talk about. Notice especially what is on your mind when you first wake up or when you're trying to go to sleep, what you have had to be more honest with yourself about than normal lately, especially last weekend. And the benefit of all of this, and there is a benefit, is becoming more clear on what your motivations are, on what is going on inside of you, and your priorities, and more importantly, bringing your experience of life into the moment so that you are living more fully and sharply. That's part of what something that scares us does for us. And tied in with that awareness of mortality and more focused experience of life in the moment, tied in with that is an increasing awareness of those who are no longer with us. It's commonly said that the veil is especially thin this time of year, and that's the veil between life and death. And if you've read any of the Harry Potter books, you might remember one scene in which Harry hears his uncle Sirius speaking, I think through a fireplace, but the point is Sirius isn't in Harry's living reality anymore, but Harry is capable of hearing him. That kind of ability is more on tap for us this year than normally. And even if you aren't someone who's trained in mediumship or who normally gets messages from or even thinks about people who have already crossed, notice who is floating through your mind. Notice when you stumble on something that reminds you of a relative or a friend who has passed on, or a pet even, and what is wrong with treating it as a message, because guess what? It very well is, and it's very well more than simply saying hi. And while you're at it, why not stop on November 1st and actually send messages? Say hello yourself to special people who are no longer physically with you. In the days following, watch for a growing sense of being connected to something far greater than just your ordinary mortal life. If you're looking for inspiration to pull something off, it will likely be on tap for you. If nothing else, you'll probably just feel a bit of magic, actually, in the air. And as we get into the full moon in Taurus on the 3rd and 4th of November, depending on where you are, it's a late night in the west, early in the morning in the east kind of event. We will all be reconsidering the physical circumstances of our lives from the point of view of whether they sustain us, whether they make us feel good and nourished and supported, and how much we actually enjoy them. A big factor in that is going to be the role of other people, what we're getting out of the situations that we invest in, who we can trust, what's reliable, what's not reliable, and maybe a big issue of is there enough for everyone, which will likely, on a collective level, play out quite noticeably in budget and tax considerations. The two earlier celebrations of the week can tie into this quite nicely, especially if you bring them in consciously. What scares you? How do you feel supported or threatened? Are the threats to your survival phantasms or are they real? And what resources might you have from ancestors and from people who are no longer physically walking among us? The planet of communication, Mercury, very quickly moves into Sagittarius, which brings us the possibility of making jokes about this and having fun with it. So if you have an unpleasant or an intense experience around the full moon, don't be surprised if you quickly transform it into laughter, joking, and maybe something actually somewhat philosophical. But whatever comes up, don't fool yourself. You're not going to be able to escape it or dodge it. These themes are going to be with us for the entire month of November, and in some instances, perhaps in some form, for Jupiter's entire transit through Scorpio, which goes on through next fall. Homing thought of the week. How do I feel about what I have? Focus on have, not what you don't have. Song of the week, I have two. Nemesis by Shriekback. That one's for Halloween and the Day of the Dead. And I, Me, Mine, a Beatles song penned and sung by George Harrison. And the image of the week is approaching a regular evening meal as if it were Thanksgiving. And why not set a place for an ancestor or dear departed friend as well? You will find more about all this in my forecasts for the month of November and for the Taurus full moon, both of which are at my site, empowermentunlimited.net, where you can find out how all this is affecting you by booking a session with me and also sign up for my mailing list to get weekly announcements of all of my latest forecasts. Talk to you next week.